State. Of course, the home of greatness, the home of brilliance, the home of scholars, the home of Michael Jordan, the home of Shirley Caesar, the home of Dr. Billy Graham, the greatest evangelist in the world, the home of some of the best academic institutions in the world. Of course, the Tar Heels, North Carolina, no doubt Tar Heel swag turned up. NCCU, which was the Harvard of the South, and also Durham being the home of Black Wall Street. Now, I want to say something, guys, because this is a conversation that needs to be addressed. Many times, guys, we talk about the importance of community, and here, guys, you can see great icons from the past that were relics in Black Reformation and also in the Black community. There was a time, guys, where there was a community where women honored themselves, they respected themselves, and the men were respected and honored too. The title of today, guys, is a community without cannot be a community within. You can't have a community without the honor and respect of men to help build that said community. As you guys can see, these are some of the famous civil rights activists, some famous icons for Black excellence of the past. As you guys know, Black Wall Street was an icon here in the Bull City. Durham was known as Black Wall Street at one time. The Bull City was known as an icon for great excellence. Here you got Floyd McKissick. Floyd McKissick, he was a civil rights leader and an attorney, one of the first African-American students admitted to the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, my alma mater. He spoke on March on Washington in 1963, became the leader of the Congress of Racial Equity in 1966, and proposed and planned a community called Soul City in Warren City. And this what the difference was back then. It was a community that was not without the honor and respect of masculinity and leadership. Many times we talk here in the greater confines of the world about community building, but you can't have a community without and expect to have a community within as it relates to Black male excellence. You can't have that. Here's another prominent Black business owner that was part of Black Wall Street. Black Wall Street, once again, is iconic for Black excellence. But not only just Black excellence, the excellence of American men in general, but because Black men historically have been oppressed and have been relics of distress, highlight the importance of Black men and Black excellence. And so you can't have a community without the honor and respect of men, expect to have a community within support. You can't have both. A community without the honor and respect of men cannot be a community within the confines of protection. So Stanford Lee Warren, he was a physician, a businessman who co-founded Lincoln Hospital, Mechanics and Farmers Bank. As you guys know, Mechanics and Farmers Bank is a prominent bank in North Carolina. One of the first Black-owned banks, donated $4,000 for the construction of the Durham Colored Library, North Carolina's first public library for African Americans. Now a branch of Durham County Library was made in his honor. As you guys see here on this side, it's NC Mutual Life Insurance Company. This was an icon for Black excellence, as it was one of the first places where insurance brokers brokered together, and they were all Black owned. So as you see, guys, Durham, North Carolina was the epicenter of excellence and greatness for people of color in the past. But what's stopping us from being successful? Again, I would say a community where men are not honored and respected. You can't have a community within. You cannot have a community within when you got a community without the honor, respect, and the psychological preservation of Black men. I'm gonna say it again. You cannot have a community within when you don't have the honor and respect of heteronormative masculinity in Black men in America. This is Durham, North Carolina, part of the greatest state in the Union, the Bull City. Wilmington, North Carolina was also known as an icon of Black excellence in the past. Wilmington, North Carolina was as well. But I want to talk about something, guys, that's been on my mind for a while. You hear it all the time. People talk about save yourself, Black man, which I think is a powerful moniker, but also save yourself, Black community. But I say this, and I said it before in the past. How can you save a community, guys, that have not consistently in these recent years invested in the mental and the physical wellness of men of color? I'm gonna say it again. How can Black men be expected to give their best, to give their love, their honor and support, to give their time, their finances, their power, and their protection to a community that consistently does not honor and respect their men? As you guys can see right here, that's Duke University. Duke University is one of the greatest schools in the country. I think it was ranked historically number 12 in the nation, behind Cal Berkeley. Duke University's on the other end. We got North Carolina Central, then we got UNC Chapel Hill. But this is the greatest state in the union, guys. North Carolina is known for clinical research, as you guys can see. But back to what I was saying again, you know, there's been a war of words as it relates, guys, to the roles that men of color should play in the evolution of community building. And as I said before in the past, a community without the honor and respect of men cannot be a community within the confines of protection and love. Men are at their best when they honor and respect. They're at their best. Men are also at their best when they have a vision and they have people or women within their lives that can help support their vision and their mission. But you guys know here recently we have what's called the soft girl era, which I said before in the past, it's only the salt girl era. It's a bunch of, sadly, some bitter women, not all. And they're more or less trying to use the time clock as a come up to get the man that they wanted. Many times men that they rejected in their earlier years, only to hope to get a decent man now. But as I said before, guys, in the past, your worth is more important than her need. I'm going to say it again. Your worth is more important than her need. As a licensed professional, as I always said, guys, in the past, relationships are at its best where the man and the woman both benefit. It got to be a cost-benefit analysis where she benefits and he benefits. But your worth is greater than her need, guys, when you put in the work, you study hard, you prepared yourself mentally and financially and physically, you've given her the best, you've given yourself the best, and you went through all the labor and the mental distress and the disrespect, and you come at the pinnacle of your success. And because you are at the pinnacle of your success, you should never settle for mediocrity. You should never settle for anything that's not consistent with helping you push your mission forward as a man. The problem with SY, Save Yourself Black Community, is this. It only looks at the power of black men when it comes down to servitude. I told you guys before in the past, it's a concept that I decided to use called dimorphic thinking. And when it comes down to power, guys, many times, some of our women, not all, shout out to all the good sisters, because I believe there's some good women that are listening. So I want to send a special shout out to all the good women. But when it comes down to dimorphic thinking, when it comes down to power, they talk about what's best for them. You saw in the last election, part of that was the Chucks and Pearls movement. But when it comes down to servitude for community, then they want black men to give their resources, their time, their love, their support, and their energy. But when you look at on the back end, you're not supporting them. Your worth is more important than her need, man, because the part of male empowerment is knowing what your worth is. I've said before in the past that you got to live your life on your own terms, unapologetic, because excellence is built off of other excellence. Excellence is built off men galvanizing one another to become the better versions of themselves. Our progenitors here in the greatest state of the union, the Tar Heel state, could not have been great unless they had a community that supported their vision, but also our women that helped galvanize them sharply as men. Men are at their best when they have humble women, awesome women, that not only support them, but honor them, reverence them, and respect them. But a man cannot be himself or be his best when he doesn't have the proper women that are galvanizing him to help him become the better version of himself. That's what made founders of Black Wall Street so great, because we had soft, feminine women, and we had honorable women that were willing to galvanize their men. You see here now, John Myrick. John Myrick was one of the progenitors of Black Wall Street. They even have an elementary school honor in his name. That's when black excellence was at its highest and at its best, when they were working together. The women were feminine, the women were respectful, and they were willing to pour into their men, and the men were able to pour back into them. But black men can no longer give their best, not just black men, all men can no longer give their best to a group of women that will not self-introspect, that will not take accountability for their bad behaviors, that will not more or less see where the error of their way has been, and that are not willing to sacrifice and more or less submit to the authority of their husbands. It would never happen again. That's why when people talk about a community, it's not going to happen again in our lifetime. It's going to be a while before it happens. The current epicenter or the current building must be burnt down. You're going to tear down what you built up, and then hopefully it'll rise back up strong again. You cannot build a foundation off of brokenness. You can't do it. A house that's built on sand will eventually succumb to itself. But a house that's built on bricks will stand. We don't have masculine authority anymore in our communities. We don't have men that know what their worth is. We have men that defer their power instead of demanding their power in relationships. And so once again, you cannot have black excellence where you have a community without expecting to have a community within. You can't have a community without the honor and respect of men. You cannot have a community without the honor and respect of young boys. Because if you want to have a community within, you got to have a community where men are honored and respected, where our boys are raised up to have some level of high self-esteem, and not to settle, guys, for mediocrity. And that's been the whole issue with many of our boys now. They settle for mediocrity. As I said before in the past on prior shows, Harriet Tubman said, I could have freed a lot more that are not already known that they are slaves. Guys, some of you are slaves to psychological abuse of the past, whether it be your community, whether it be your mothers, whether it be your fathers that were never in your life. Some of you men are slaves psychologically to the past. And you cannot rise above the morass because you are broken. You don't even know that you're broken. You've been so conditioned to dysfunction that you think it's normal to accept bad behavior. But once again, this whole trope about save yourself black community, I think it's a good idea and it's a noble one, but it's not an idea that's substantiated in power. As I told you guys before in the past, human beings only respect power and strength. And that's the same for women. They only respect power and strength. Our women of yesterday respected power. They respected their men. They had no other choice. They respected power because there was a consequence when you didn't respect power. But nowadays, so many men give their power because they've never seen masculinity in its fullest and its rarest form. But once again, guys, bring it to you live from the greatest state in the Union, the Tar Heel State. Once again, black excellence was here at one point, but will it come back again? I don't think so. It's going to take a couple of generations for us to get it back to where it was. Too many competing factions and too many competing agendas, because a community without the honor and respect of men cannot be a community within. I'm going to say it again. A community without the honor and respect of men cannot be a community within. Your churches won't talk about it. Your institutions won't talk about it. Your schools won't talk about it because it goes against the status quo. But I can talk about it because I understand how behavior modification works. And this is not to cast aspersions to nobody. That's not my mission. But I'm trying to give you guys the footprints to what black excellence was in the past. That's what excellence was in the past. Men were honored for having blue-collar jobs. They weren't lambasted. They were honored for having a hard work ethic. The women supported their men that worked on farms. Because many times our men, when they worked on farms, sent their wives to schools so they can get higher education. But now you got men making $50,000 to $60,000 a year, and you got subpar women that'll tell you that's not enough. I'm trying to tell you guys, you need to tell them that you're not enough. You need to start telling those women that they are not enough. You're not adequate. Because if you busted your ass to become the best version of yourself, you have a right to tell her she's not enough and she's not adequate. There's a king that resides in every man. And every man wants that king, his crown, to be polished at some point. But if you got a woman that's not polishing your crown, guys, she don't need to be in your life. She don't need to be in your life if she's not polishing your crown. Righteous women polish the crowns of their men, then the men turn around and take care of their women. But when you're giving your love and protection to a woman for free, you can't build this so-called mythical community that so many are talking about. And because of that, guys, the only option that I can see now, this current milieu, is this. You have to save yourself. You have to save yourself from tyranny, social tyranny, Marxism, or whatever. You're going to save yourself and start loving yourself and start erecting walls within the confines of your mind so that you can get the best outcomes that you want. Because our ancestors understood it. Women like Patricia Hawkins, a director of nursing at Lincoln Hospital, she understood it. She understood that she had to erect or change the laws in her mind. All these progenitors of the past, black or white, men and women, realized that there was a cost-benefit analysis for greatness. What are you willing, men, to do to get the cost-benefit analysis that you need? What are you willing to give up? What are you willing to give up to get what you want in a relationship? What are you willing to defer or demand, especially if you put in the work? You guys see these men over here working, building this new tower here in Bull City. These men have to give a cost-benefit analysis. Some lose their lives doing blue-collar work. If you're a blue-collar worker, shout out to you guys. Shout out to all the blue-collar workers that are listening, because the world is nothing without blue-collar workers. The buildings that you guys see, that everybody been for, men and women. It would be nothing without the sweat, blood, and tears of blue-collar workers. So shout out to the blue-collar workers. But once again, guys, what are you willing to give as it relates to excellence? What are you willing to give? What are you willing to do to become even a vestige of what our ancestors were years ago? Because our ancestors had to go do tyranny. They had to go do oppression. They had to go do a lot of things. But what's stopping you today? Because we're not going through what they went through. We're not going through it as much. I think sometimes the things we talk about is fabricated. Now's the opportunity, guys, for the men who've done the work to rise up above the level of mediocrity that you've given yourself. Start demanding more. Start exuding confidence. Start radiating high vibrations as men. Once you begin to do that, everything else will take care of yourself. So, guys, I'm about to sign off once again. This is a place of excellence. The Bull City, besides Wilmington, North Carolina, but there was black excellence. The Bull City of Black Wall Street. This is where it all began. And I need you guys to remember this. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, it ain't right. There are 7 steps that a man must go through in order to become an optimized male, and understanding how your worth as a man is important to the efficacy of your function is paramount if you want to build a mythical community that existed in the past. Be well, guys. Check this show out. Go subscribe to the channel, and guys, share the content.